Okay, why don't we get started? Again, thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Anthony Zamora. I'm with Pacific Coast Title. Jared, if you could just go to the next screen.
Absolutely.
Please silence your phones. If you do have any questions, please type them in the chat. We do want interaction because this is for escrow officers. And the more interaction we get from you guys, the more questions asked, the more we can better our product, okay? So next slide, Jared. The agenda today: what is wire fraud, how it affects escrow, what can we do, and the steps to help protect. Next slide, Jerry. Today, our guest speakers are Nicole Evans with Safewire, Jerry Hernandez with Pacific Coast Title, and Jorge Mesa, but he's not on the screen right now, so he'll be there shortly. Next screen, Jerry.
Okay, so I think that definitely, Nicole, if you want to go ahead and kind of share your screen and take it away.
Sure, give me just a second here, pull it up. All right, can you guys see it okay? Okay, great. Well, thanks for joining today. What I'm going to do is briefly just talk to you guys a little bit about Safewire and how it works and why it's being used. As you guys know, wire fraud is a huge problem in the industry. And this is a tool that really helps protect you guys when receiving wiring instructions from sellers or borrowers or sending them to buyers, and making sure not only is it secure, but then you're also confirming the identity of the person you're communicating with, right? Because emails can be hacked, and even if you send something securely, we never know who we're really communicating with on the other end. So what this does is it provides a safe method for transferring wiring instructions, as well as it comes with $1 million guarantee, as we really need in these transactions right now. There's really no insurance covering it. But I'll go ahead and dig into this a little bit here and show you guys why we use it first and how it works. And we'll talk about the process, and it's really easy. So let me click over here. All right, so as we talked about, we'll talk about what Safewire is. How does wire fraud happen? We'll do a quick overview of Safewire and the experience that your clients will go through. So again, it's just a Safewire is just software, okay? It's really simple. It's just an email that will come into your clients, and then they'll just verify some bits of information just so that we know that they're the correct person that you're communicating with. And then we also go through banking verification to make sure the name on the account matches the name on the transaction that you're working with. Safewire has been used many times. It's very easy to use, again, and I'll show you how that works. Why do we need it? These hackers are evolving on a daily basis. So whether they're hacking through emails or they are going, they're either going through realtors' emails or title company emails. I've seen contract closers get hacked, and where their emails are hacked and an image of a check has been changed out. I mean, there's so many different ways on how they do this, whether they're getting through a computer and changing hyperlinks. So we have to really stay ahead of it. Because it does keep evolving. And again, they use various methods to infiltrate. The industry, as you guys know, has no mandated security, which leaves everybody at their own will to change their security requirements on their email, and that's scary. Large corporations typically have a better security team in place to make sure everything is structured properly in email security settings. And with so many independent contractors, that's not happening in this industry. We also know that companies operate differently. So their methods on keeping things safe vary from company to company. Safewire does set a standard that does work universally, just because of the way that we are verifying the people that you guys are communicating with. And wire fraud's not going away anytime soon, mostly because of all of these reasons above. I mean, it's just not going away. There's no uniform way the industry is working. So they're always going to be able to maneuver in different holes, if you will. So there's really two big problems with the industry. The first one is that there's a lot of data segmentation. So if you think about it, you have brokerage data, and you have mortgage data and title and escrow data. And so this information is moving around to these three different areas. And a lot of this information is sensitive. Most of it is. I mean, this is a huge financial step for anybody. So without uniform security each time, and I'm sure you guys have seen non-secured wiring instructions coming around or non-secured data coming through. Because of this, it's really easy for the hackers. It's such an easy target for hackers to go after, and it makes so much sense for them. The other part of it is that real estate agents have independent emails most of the time. They're Gmail or Yahoo or AOL. And even with that being said, there are large brokerages out there who still let agents take their emails and work on their security, on their email security individually. So with that being said, there's a lot of weak email protections in the industry. And this is the primary reason that wire fraud is continuing and it's so successful. I'm going to walk you guys quickly through how a $150,000 loss happens in 2021. You throw in whatever amount you want in there, it's all going to be similar. But we'll go with this for now. So as you know, when a realtor has a new listing, their information is everywhere on the internet. And the primary piece of information that a hacker needs is an email address. So as you can see on Redfin, you can go look for new listings and you'll see the email address right there. You can find this on a variety of different sites. And in this market right now, with listings going into contract so quick, it's perfect for any hacker. So they say, okay, great, there's the email address. That's who I'm sending a phishing email to. Phishing emails, and I'll show you what those look like. Phishing scams, if you're not familiar with them, they have increased in the past year and a half. It's actually up to about 600% now, because so much of the real estate transaction has moved to technological resources and electronic resources. We're relying on sites like notarize.com for one example. So with that being said, everyone is clicking on everything that they get these days. So if something comes to them through email that's related to real estate, they don't want to lose their transaction. They don't want to lose their home purchase or sale. So they're going to click on it. And so the success rate of these has increased tremendously. So let's talk about phishing. If you guys are not familiar with phishing emails, 91% of real estate wire fraud is a result of online phishing. And it's an email that looks as simple as this. What the hackers do is they go to the dark web and they can purchase email templates that look like this. It can say Apple, Netflix, Amazon's a big one. Everybody tries to figure out where their orders are with Amazon. But they'll send an email like this to the realtor after they find their email address online. And then if the realtor clicks on that and enters their information in and enters in their user credentials, just the login and password, then at that point, many of them have access to their email. So if you think about it, a lot of people use the same username and password across lots of different platforms: Amazon, email, Facebook, their bank information. They use it for everything. So what they'll do next is they'll enter those credentials into email and they'll try to break into their email account. I did talk to a brokerage that, I'm in Ohio. I know you guys are not, but we talked to a brokerage that's not far from here. They had over 600 agents and they sent out a phishing email test to their agents. They send them out once a month and they have a 70% fail rate. If that gives you any idea as to like how effective phishing emails are. And it makes sense when you see how successful wire fraud is. So once they have the user credentials, the login and password, they'll go ahead and try and log into the email. If that agent has set up two-factor authentication on their email, then it will stop the hacker from getting in, because that hacker will not be able to get that verification code texted to the phone. Unless they physically stole the phone from the real estate agent, they're not going to be able to get in. And these guys are looking for the path of least resistance. So they're going to move on to the next if they have to get a verification code and enter it in. If they don't have that verification code, which, like you can see right here, 90% of Gmail users don't turn on two-factor authentication. And they say Gmail users, by the way, are one of the more sophisticated users of email platforms. So if it's 90% that don't turn it on there, you can imagine where it would be on Yahoo or AOL or Hotmail, etc. Once they get into the agent's email, they're going to start watching to see who's involved in the transaction. So they're going to say, okay, these are the buyers, these are the sellers, this is the other agent, this is the title company, here's the lender. And they're going to start taking those emails and they're going to divert them into another folder. And I'll show you what that looks like. I will say prior to working at Safewire, I was working in the title industry for 3 years. And here in Ohio, title companies are title escrow combined. And I saw 2 of my agents get hacked. And I'm going to show you a screenshot from one of them of what we found in her email. I had authorization to do this, so I don't want you guys to think that I'm being sneaky, but it was really scary to see all of this. So she worked out of Office 365. And what happened in here is they set up rules. So you can see on here, the first one is Christine@escrowclosings.com. Now, this is the hacker's fake email address that they created so that they can respond as an escrow agent as well. And then they took anyone from worldclasstitle.com and they took the buyer's emails. So what they did is they set up the same rules on each of these. They marked all of the emails as read. And what that does is it stops an alert from coming into the email showing that a new email has popped in. So they're never alerted a new email comes in. And then they moved them directly to the RSS feeds folder, which is a folder that I would say the majority of people do not check. And so what happened is because the agent was never alerted, she never saw these emails, and the hacker was able to correspond with everybody else, including the buyers, primarily the buyers, without the agent ever knowing. But the hacker was posing as the agent. And this is what it looked like. So this is the email from the agent to the buyers and copying the fake escrow agent on there as well. What they did is they initially said, hey, we're sending over the wiring instructions. We'll send you a HUD first thing tomorrow morning. Kindly, keyword and with most hackers, wire funds on time before the bank's cutoff time. Anyway, so they sent all of these instructions over. And then what happened next? So that was all in green down there. The next part is the client writes back, the buyer writes back, we'll be prepared to wire funds upon receiving the HUD statement, but not before. We would also like to know why this needs to be done so early and so far in advance of the closing. Probably a question more for Christine, the fake hacker account, than Michelle, who has been hacked. So at this point, the hackers are like, great. We have both sides of this. We've got this. We're going to get these funds. And then at that point, Christine, the escrow agent, the fake escrow agent, responds and says, please see attached HUD statement for your review. Requesting for funds from our clients days before closing is to avoid any delays that may occur. This has always been our policy. Seems very legit. It's scary. After that, the buyers reached out to the agent and asked and said, hey, we're not comfortable with this. Are you sure this is okay? And they said, and the agent said, yeah, it's no problem at all. She had no idea these emails were going on. She said, it's fine. We do this all the time. She thought they were uncomfortable with the wiring process. Luckily, the buyers reached out to the title company and the title company said, nope, that's not from us. Stop right there. So luckily they had checked. Had they not, they would have been out $305,000. And that agent probably would have had a hefty amount of liability. The guys that are behind this, the people that are behind this are primarily out of India, Pakistan, and Nigeria. We don't have any jurisdiction over those areas, so they're going to continue doing what they're doing, unfortunately. They are being sought after, but we likely won't get the majority of them, and new ones keep popping up. It's almost like they have rings of people working together. This is a case that happened out of Kansas several years ago. It was about 3 years ago. And I think this one's important so that you guys understand where realtors need to understand also their liability in a transaction like this. So in this case, what happened is a realtor had wiring instructions come to them, but they had been hacked, and those wiring instructions had been swapped out by the hacker, and they forwarded along the incorrect ones to the buyer. The buyer wired over their funds. The court ruled that it was the agent's negligence and that they had forwarded it because they couldn't prove if the agent had done it or if someone else had done it on their behalf. And the buyer lost almost $200,000. And because of the negligence of that agent, they were given 85% liability of the loss, which is $167,000. That's a precedent that has been set. I think agents need to be more aware of it, and they need to have a little bit more due diligence when it comes to this. But we know that as a whole, like, honestly, I've talked to so many agents who say, hey, my title company, my escrow company has me covered. So we know that at the end of the day, we're really trying to make sure that we're covering them as well. But they need to understand that they need to be responsible as well. Closing protection coverage insurance does not cover wire fraud loss. We all know that. E&O insurance does not cover agent negligence. And with cyber insurance, several years ago, it may have covered wire fraud losses, but these insurance companies are in the business of making money. And we've seen social engineering exclusions going into these policies more and more, which is stopping the payouts on wire fraud loss. So if you have a cyber insurance policy, definitely check it, see if you have an exclusion, and if you're just paying for cyber insurance, even though it's not going to cover it. But I would definitely look into policies. So why Safewire? We do a few things to make it easier. So we simplify the verification process. We reduce that amount of time. Right now, if you're calling and verifying wiring instructions each time, it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes per call. Also, it's a pain of picking up the phone and waiting for someone and talking to someone on the phone. This streamlines the effort so that it's all an automated verification process. We scan the client for any security breaches on the dark web. We confirm that their IP address is within the United States. We don't work with that. We don't work outside of the United States. We do require the client to properly verify their identity with a driver's license or an ID card or a passport. So they just need to make sure they take a picture of that in Safewire. We have two different options, and I'll show you guys that in a minute, on how we verify their bank account information to make sure it is their account. And any incorrect information is flagged so that we know if it's a riskier transaction. And then with the bank account verification, like I said, there's two methods. The first one is they can use their online banking credentials. So if they do online banking, it's like when you first sign up for Venmo or PayPal, you link your bank account with your username and password, answer a few security questions as you would with anything that's outside of your banking app. And then they'll just select the account that they want pulled in so that they can have their proceeds sent to that account. If their bank's not listed, they can do a manual entry of account number and routing number, and then they'll just verify micro deposits. That one takes up to 48 business hours, but there are two different options. We are going to dig into the Safewire process now and how it works. And I will kick this over to Jerry in just a minute, but first we just want to show you how it works. So the first part of it is that the realtor will send you guys the contract. And then after that, you guys will send the order to PCT. They enter the information into Resware, which generates a wizard link that Jerry's going to show you guys in just a minute. And that is delivered to you guys. Once you guys receive that link, you'll make sure that the borrower, seller, buyer, whoever the client is, they will get a copy of that link and complete it. And once they've completed it, the email and phone number for the client are now in Resware, which automatically kicks out the invite to Safewire to the client. And then they'll complete it, and then you guys will have all the information you need in your file. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Jerry real quick so he can show you what that wizard link is like.
All right, everybody. So I want to kind of give you guys some visuals as to what Nicole was mentioning and what we call kind of really the 3 steps to protection, right? So let's just take it from the time that the order is opened with us as your title partner, right? So basically there's a 3-step process that needs to happen to go ahead and make sure that we're going to go ahead and protect you and protect your clients. So with that said, first one is you're actually going to receive invitation from us, and that looks something like this. Let me show you that in a second. So for those of you that have been opening orders with us, you're now used to kind of the types of notifications that we send out when the order is actually opened, right? So you're going to get your typical open order notification that includes your legal investing, your tax roll, and any grant deeds, right? In addition to that, you're going to get the borrower verification email, which you see on the screen now. So as you can see, it kind of has some information about the actual order. It has a live order number. It has the actual property address. It has what step the transaction is in. And then there's a big orange button that you see there. So this is the email that you need to actually forward to your borrower and seller when the seller applies. to the transaction, right? So in our previous webinar, we actually educated all of our real estate partners that they might also be seeing this email from us, right? So all we really need to do is go ahead and forward this over to our borrower. We have plenty of information below that. We have a great little video explaining what it is and how it falls into the actual transaction. So when they actually click on that, it's going to take them to a page just like this, which is a borrower verification page. They can confirm it's the same order number. They can confirm it's the same property address. So they're going to basically enter their phone number and they're going to get a code. When they do that, they're going to go ahead and they're going to enter that code, and it's going to grant them access into the first part of the verification, right? And I'm going to show you exactly why it's so important for them to fill all this stuff out. So we're going to ask them their names, right? Last four of their social, their birthday, driver's license. So now what you're seeing is they're actually filling out the statement of information form directly within this wizard. For those of us that have kind of dealt with statement of informations, they're really, really a pain, right? They usually don't get to us till the end of the transaction. It's a piece of paper that we got to either scan and email over. They got to fill it out. Sometimes they take a picture of it, or they got to find a way to get it back to you. And it's a total pain. So what we did is we actually merged it together with Safewire in this actual wizard. So they're doing this from the comfort of their phone or their desktop or even at work. So they fill out this first part. Most of the information will already be filled in there for them because we've gotten it from the actual transaction. It's going to just ask them for their last 10 years of residences. It's going to ask them for a few pieces of information regarding the transaction, right? All the same things that are asked on the statement of information, but we've just made it really, really easy to digest, right? In a 4-step little wizard. Then as they fill everything out, we're just going to basically ask them to consent that the information that they filled out in the previous 3 steps is all correct. And then they're just going to get a nice little confirmation page, just like this, with a big orange button. There's a nice little video there that's going to explain what wire fraud is. So now I want to show you exactly what happens when they did that. So officially now the statement of information process has been completed. It is no longer an obstacle within the transaction. That information that was entered gets directly inserted into our production system and lets our verification team begin doing their homework with that. In addition, it's going to go ahead and kick off the second part of the verification, which is verifying their wire instructions. And I want to show you what kind of email they get to go ahead and kick that process off. So this will now begin the actual Safewire process of verifying their banking information, so we can securely obtain their wire instructions and they can securely obtain ours. So with that, I want to kind of kick it back over to you, Nicole, so you can go ahead and let them know a little bit about the Safewire verification process.
Sorry about that. I was trying to unmute real quick.
Okay.
I apologize for that. Okay. So as Jerry just showed you, first they will receive their invite, which looks like this. So it's just a welcome screen in an email that they'll initially receive. And so what they'll do is they'll click agree and continue once they go through here. I'm going to show you every step. It's really not complicated and it doesn't take them very long. So they'll click agree and continue. Once they click that, they will get a verification code texted to their device so they can go ahead and enter that code into the box right here. And again, they can do this on a computer or they can do it on their device or a tablet, a phone, whichever they prefer. They'll go ahead and click continue. Then they will create a password for their Safewire account, hit continue, and now they can start their process. So there's a few different options in here. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to verify the property. They're going to verify their identity. For a buyer, this is where they stop and then download wiring instructions. For a seller or a borrower on a cash out refi, they're also going to verify their banking information so that you have their secure verified wiring instructions. So let's go ahead. I'll show you what that looks like. The first step is they are going to identify the property in the closing. And so what we'll do is we'll have one of the addresses in there will be the property and the transaction. And then there's a few different properties in the vicinity that will also be in there to throw, if someone's hacking it, it will throw them off. They won't know the property address, but they have to verify that correctly first. Then the next step is verifying their identity. So when they verify their identity, they're going to use a state issued ID card, or they will use a government passport. So they'll select whichever one they want to use, and then they can hit continue. They'll take a picture of their front of their ID and then the back of the ID, and then they'll upload those photos. Once that's complete, that's where a buyer would stop and download wiring instructions. For a seller or a borrower in a cash out refi, again, they're going to go ahead and take the next step and verify their bank account wire information. So as I talked about a little bit earlier, is there's two different methods. So they can log into their online banking and connect it like they would in PayPal or Venmo. And that one is an instant verification, which is great. The other option is if they prefer to do the manual verification, it takes up to 48 business hours. Most people do that if they work with a smaller bank and they happen not to be listed. So, but I'll show you what both of those are like, and it's easy. Both of them are very easy to use. So the first one is log into online banking. So they'll select their bank. We have over 3,000 banks and credit unions in here. So let's say they bank with Chase. They'll select Chase. They'll enter in their user ID, their password. They'll re-enter their password. Whenever you log into your online banking through another system, such as, again, PayPal or Venmo or Safewire, your bank will always require a few additional security questions to be answered just to verify that you are the correct person accessing it. And then they'll ask a few security questions like, what's your favorite color? You'll enter in your information and hit continue. That will bring you into your accounts. So you can choose which account you want the money wired to. The client will select that. And then once they select it, it pulls the information into Safewire for you. So all of that information is verified. Their name is on the account. It verifies all of their information. Let's go back. If they want to do the manual entry of account number and routing number, this is what it looks like. They will choose provide my account information. This is also very easy. So what they'll do is they will type in their account number, they'll confirm it, they'll type in their routing number, they'll put their bank name in there, and they will hit continue. After that, what happens is they'll get a screen that says, check your bank account within 2 business days for the micro deposits. Micro deposits are any amount under 75 cents. So they'll have 2 amounts in there. And then what they'll do is they're going to receive a reminder email from Safewire saying, hey, don't forget to go back in and verify those amounts. They'll just click on it, log back in. It looks like this, it says, welcome back. They'll enter in those amounts. So let's say their micro deposits were 3 cents and 9 cents. They'll enter those amounts in and they'll hit continue. It will verify that it's correct. And that's it. They've completed Safewire. It's very simple. And so if you think about why this works, it's really easy. First of all, they get the email. If someone's hacked their email and they click on that link, they still can't log into the Safewire link without that verification code that goes to the phone number of the client that was entered in when they filled out that wizard link that Jerry showed you. So unless they physically stolen their phone, which is pretty much impossible, they're going to be okay. So we know that they're getting past that point. They've also gone through their banking information and put all of that information in there, and we've matched up the names. So we know that we've verified that we have the correct person. So you guys will feel more comfortable with wiring funds to your sellers or borrowers and knowing that that information is accurate and it's all automated. I mean, really the only steps, if we really outline what you guys have to go through, you have the wizard link, and then you just have to get the wiring instructions. You really don't have anything else to do. It's a super easy process, and it will save you guys a lot of time, and it will be a more secure method. Let me see if there's any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I can't see if there's any questions right now.
Claudia Contreras wants to know if there's a cost for Safewire.
Jerry, do you want to answer that?
Right. So there really is no cost for the standard coverage that we are doing in partnering with Safewire, right? So really the goal is just to really eliminate all wire fraud and transactions that we are involved in. So yeah, there is no cost for the standard coverage.
We can open it up for questions right now. If you want to go ahead and ask Nicole or Jerry any questions directly. Jerry, are you able to unmute if anybody wants to ask a question?
I believe so. Yeah, it just know exactly who it is, and then yep, I can basically give them permission to share and talk.
So if anybody does have a question, just go ahead and raise your hand and we'll go ahead and unmute you. I know initially this may seem a little complicated because there's so many, it seems like there's so many little wizards and stuff that need it. But once the transaction gets going, the emails that are sent are pretty self-explanatory and very easy to fill out. It's definitely going to eliminate a lot of the running around to get a statement of information towards the end of the transaction. And that's something that's going to be very helpful for us as a title company, as well as for you and the agent as well, because we all know